being that we are still in the midst of a pandemic. Let's get right over to the phones because taking time out of his busy days he's done since this whole thing got rolling way back in March of last year is our good friend Dr. Dennis Norem from Mercy Health. Dr. Norem, good morning to you.
Good morning to you guys.
You enjoying this weather?
Actually, it's kind of a nice break. I can't complain.
Better than Phoenix right now.
We needed the rain, and we got a fair amount of rain, but we could use some more.
Yeah, and I was going to say, out in Tucson right now, I'm sure the blacktop is bubbling. Signs are starting to melt. So, you're not missing out on that much.
I think they hit 112 the other day.
112.
Yeah, Phoenix did. So.
Yeah, they're setting records day after day. It's really sad, and I'm not sure when this is going to break. I think they're going to get a cooling off. My daughter said this week it's going to be 104.
Oh, all right. Yeah. People dragging long pants out of the closet. Sure. Well, there you go. There's, once again, geographic differences illustrated in about 2 sentences. All right, some of the COVID news that is making news this morning. We're at the 70% mark here in Illinois, according to the CDC. 70% of Illinois adults have gotten themselves at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine.
Yes, that's really good news. We're doing better than a lot of states. There are some states that are ahead of us, but at least we're making good progress. I see our numbers of COVID infection and deaths are way, way down. We're down to, I think, February of 2020. So we're really, I think, doing well. One other statistics I'll throw at you guys, which I'm very proud of. The AMA did a survey and found 96% of practicing physicians have been immunized.
That's very nice.
That's outstanding. That's a big number.
How are we doing on the two-stage vaccines? I rather said we're at 70% for people getting at least one of the vaccines. Are the majority of people completing the process, getting the second one 3 weeks later?
It appears they are. I think we're about 53, 54% of both shots being completed. So it appears that we are continuing to be on track to get everybody vaccinated. It's certainly available everywhere now. You can get it at the pharmacy. You see these free vaccine sort of pop-up clinics in the county. Mm-hmm. So, again, it's a broken record, but I encourage everyone to get vaccinated. It's the only way we're going to get out of this pandemic.
Yeah, we've got, according to the CDC, 70% of Illinois adults, Illinois being the first state in the Midwest to hit that mark. That percentage differs, though, from what the Illinois Department of Public Health's tracking says, which shows less than 64% of our adult residents have had at least one vaccine dose. I don't know what to make of that.
Well, it's like all statistics. It's who's collecting it,
right.
And a lot of it's timing, too. There may be a slightly different timing interval there.
When Riles introduced you, he said, we're still in a pandemic. I think we are. When will we be able to say we're not in a pandemic?
That's a great one. I would like to know that too.
So would I. I guess I can't really say. I think we could say we're not in a pandemic when major portions of the country report virtually no cases. Not that there would be no cases in the country, but there would be major geographic areas, maybe small states or major portions of some states that would have virtually no COVID reported. And you could probably say it's no longer a pandemic. It's simply episodic epidemics, in different areas.
And
I think we're a long ways from that.
Will we ever be able to say as Americans here that we're out of the pandemic, even though it might be going on other places of the world? If we get it kind of shut down here, will the herd immunity, all that, kick in and protect us to be out of it? We don't have to wait for 180 other countries to catch up for us, right?
Absolutely not. If we were to get our vaccination rates up to that 80%, whatever, 80. There's a lot of debate, 70, 80, 85, 90%. But anyway, if we were to get it up there, I think we would be able to say we're out of the pandemic, and regardless of what other countries are doing. It's clear the other countries are a long ways away because of all the issues we've talked about, them getting their vaccines. They're way behind us.
We were talking about the Olympics, which are set to go off a little over a month from now in Japan, and according to the recent numbers that they're releasing or leaning on, we're looking at 6.5% of the Japanese population with the vaccine.
Yeah, that's really a low number, and I think they're talking about they are definitely saying no spectators.
No, only locals. They're going to allow 10,000 local people from around Tokyo in, but they have to be masked. They're not allowed to cheer, and they must return home immediately afterwards.
That sounds like a great fan experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, doesn't it? So, I paid top dollar for these seats. I got to remain quiet. I'm masked, and I have to leave and actually go home the minute it's over.
Yeah. The other thing, I wonder if they're going to have enough volunteers. I think you saw that a large number of the volunteers have unvolunteered because of COVID.
And we have, I mean, obviously it's not a fact over in Japan. Only 6.5% vaccinated. It's not, they don't have abundance sitting there. It's not convincing people to get vaccinated. They just don't have them. Our supplies here in the States, we got enough for 300 million people to get fully vaccinated, right? We're not running out anytime soon.
No, we are not. We are in the process of working out exporting a large number of our vaccines. So no, we have plenty of vaccine.
Yeah,
there's no reason.
Looking at a piece right here where the administration hails the 300 million COVID-19 vaccine shots administered in America so far. The goal of getting 70% of American adults at least partially vaccinated by July 4th is getting closer, but now it says the pace of new vaccinations in America has dropped below 400,000 people per day, which is down from a high of 2 million per day 2 months ago.
Yeah, we still have that issue of vaccine hesitancy, and it's really, I think, rearing its head now because people that are all 4 vaccines have gotten vaccinated. Some of the people who are hesitant are continuing to get vaccinated, but there's certainly a number of people that have made it clear they're not going to get vaccines regardless, and that's very unfortunate.
Yeah, 70% in New York, celebrating 70%, but we have other states hovering below 35%, Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Idaho, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Wyoming.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, why the southern states are more hesitant, but it is discouraging. I know there were some distribution issues, but that shouldn't be a problem any longer. And there's still, numbers of people spewing out misinformation. I think you saw what happened at Houston Methodist with the nursing group that are protesting, and there was a court case. Unfortunately, the court said no, the hospital can require vaccines as part of it. So maybe that will push a few more people in the right direction.
Doc, we've talked to you for about 8 minutes here, and somehow we haven't used the word variant yet. So let's get to that part of the conversation. Delta variant is the one we hear about all the time. The Delta variant. Apparently, the Alpha and the Beta wasn't that bad. Is there an Epsilon variant along the way, or where are we on variants? Are we just not hearing about some of them because they're not as bad? And how bad is this Delta one getting in Europe?
Well, I can't tell you why they changed the name. It was the Indian variant, and they decided to call it the Delta variant. Mm-hmm. I guess they've decided it's unfair to peg it to the country of origin. And I'm not sure why, but I think it is more helpful just to talk about it in terms of a Delta, a Gamma, whatever. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's going to be more variants. There's probably hundreds of variants out there. But it's not important unless they'll become the predominant variant. And it looks like the Delta variant is, over the next several weeks, going to become the dominant COVID variant in the country. And the problem with the Delta variant, as you've read, is it is more likely to be contagious. It's affecting the younger people. It may make people sicker, a little higher death rate. But the good news is the vaccines still work. They don't work as well. I think what I saw is the Pfizer, Moderna, the first shot's only about 30% effective. But the second shot gets it close to 90. So it's very important, again, that people get vaccinated because this variant is more contagious, does make people sicker, and will lead to more deaths.
What happens between the first, because it's the same shot when we get those 2 stages between the first and second. What happens in those 3 weeks that the second shot bumps you up, 60% from 30 to 90?
Well, I think it could explain it by saying the first shot stimulates the immune system to create an immune response, mainly antibodies and also so-called T-cell response, which is a cellular response. Well, you get a certain response, and it takes 2 to 3 weeks to get that response from a vaccine. So we wait 3 weeks, and we give another shot, and it gives the body another boost to respond again. So it boosts the response further to the 90 to 95% level.
Kind of like we're telling our body we're not messing around. We mean this time. Can you please do it?
Yes.
Okay.
If the immune response isn't that great the first time, then hopefully the second shot will give a better response. Now, having said that, younger people, women, do respond better to vaccines. Older people, especially older men, don't respond as well. But overall, the numbers that we quote are the overall responses from the study. And then that leads to the question, which we don't know yet, at what point are we going to need boosters, because our immune response tends to fade a little bit with time, depending on what we've responded to or what the virus has done. So, again, that whole issue of whether we're going to get boosters is kind of up in the air. But I'm pretty sure we're going to need some kind of booster shot down the road.
And when will we make that decision?
I think the studies, so far, they're tracking immune responses to the COVID and to the vaccine. The last thing I saw is it looks like we still have a good response at a year. So I think they're tracking that, and we'll have information as we go along. And we'll know when it looks like our response is dropping. And the other thing I think we'll see is people who have been vaccinated, if they become sick enough to get hospitalized, then people are going to be very interested in what's going on there.
Speaking of responses, one thing that the COVID has caused that we do need to respond to, and that is rolling up a sleeve and giving some blood. I'm looking at a piece this morning saying New England hospitals are delaying and rescheduling surgeries because of a shortage of blood donations because of the pandemic. Director of Transfusion Medicine at UMass Memorial, quote, "We haven't seen anything like this in about 30 or 40 years at least. Periodic localized blood shortages are not uncommon, but this shortage is unprecedented in its scope."
That's unfortunate. I know the blood bank has been advertising here locally. I haven't seen anything that directly relates it to COVID, but clearly COVID had to have affected people's ability and wanting to go into the blood bank. And it's unfortunate. I would encourage people, obviously, to donate blood.
You bring up the local, the Rock River Valley Blood Bank, our center, advertising about that. And I noticed one of the things they say is that we test all our samples for COVID antigen antibodies. Probably not the right words there, but why are we screening for that? Is that for more research? Is that to does your blood get rejected if you have the antibodies or the antigens in there? Why are we screening for that?
No, the idea was that you could donate convalescent plasma to people who have active COVID. We were doing a lot of that early on. I think, unfortunately, the data was not all that, showing that it was all that effective. And I'm not sure they're still doing convalescent plasma. So they take the plasma from a person who's had COVID and give it to a person who is ill in the hospital. And it looked like it may have some effect on reducing the severity of the illness.
Gotcha.
But I think that's kind of gone a little bit by the wayside.
But, yeah, make sure you make your plans to get in there and do that. Nationwide Red Cross normally has a 5-day supply of all types of blood, according to a spokesperson for Red Cross of Massachusetts. Right now, that supply of sorely needed type O blood would only last half a day. She says it's going out faster than it's coming in. Now, that is New England. That isn't here. But there's nothing that says we couldn't run into those kind of problems here with enough people saying, I've been staying away. I'm going to continue to stay away.
Yes, and its big concern is we're into the summer and we're into, major trauma season, and people haven't been on the road. We haven't seen the kind of accidents until recently. Now we've opened up the country, especially Illinois, and you could see by the traffic yesterday. I drove back from Wisconsin, and it was back to that usual holiday traffic on Sunday. And we're going to see the accidents and the trauma, and the need for blood is going to increase significantly.
Gotcha. All right, well... Another week has gone by. At least, we see the numbers in Illinois rising up to the point that, we're among a handful of states who are at or very near the 70 percentile, depending on if you're looking at CDC or Illinois Department of Public Health. But around the world, not quite so hopeful as you look at how things are going in India, how things are going in spots in Europe and other parts in Asia. It's still a big global problem.
Oh, absolutely. I see India's rate has leveled off a bit, but that's how these viral pandemics go. It's sort of they wax and wane, and we've already seen that here in this country. So they're still in major, major trouble. Nice. And they may get a little reprieve, but they'll probably get another burst, another wave, because their vaccine rates are so low.
And since all of this is still going on, Dr. Norem, if you're willing, we'd be looking forward to talking this all over with you again next week.
That sounds good, guys. Stay safe.
We appreciate it. There's our friend Dr. Dennis Norem from Mercy Health.